Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, mother to 2 young humans living in Spain, obsessed with baby development and how it can be encouraged through music and classes. Now, if you have read any of my blogs or watched some of my other videos, you will know that rewind 6 years ago, which was the start of my parenting journey, I had absolutely no idea what the term helicopter parent meant. But here's what I did know. Every cliche that had ever been said to me regarding the love I would feel for my child was right. I had never known a love like it. I would do anything for my child and I would only ever be as happy as my unhappiest child forevermore, which I realize sounds intense, but it's true. As a result of that, the anxiety and worry that my child would ever know a negative feeling crept in with it. I wanted to make sure she was happy all the time. I know, I'm sounding crazy, but I'm just being honest. I couldn't stand the idea that she would ever know sadness, and so I started doing everything I could to make sure that she wouldn't have those negative feelings. So if she might get upset that her favorite toy would get broken, I'd buy 2. I planned a big trip to Canada when she was 5 months old to make sure we were always somewhere convenient for her next feed, for fear she would know even 5 minutes hunger. If she wants to wear something new even now to school, I try and discourage her in case it gets ruined and she gets upset. But I've since come to realize that this natural tendency I have, and think perhaps a lot of us do, has a name, and that name is helicopter parent. And that, well, ultimately, I don't think it's possibly the best way for me to parent my children now. So I wanted to take a better look at what helicopter parenting is by definition, why we can feel the need to do it, and perhaps why we might want to take a different approach, as I am trying my best to. So if you look up the term helicopter parenting, you'll get lots of what I find to be very strong and hugely negative phrases. That it's an overprotective and very involved parenting style. That it's a style of parenting where parents are overly involved in their children's lives, often to the point of micromanaging and controlling their every move. Historically, it was a term that was coined in a 1969 book titled Between Parent and Teenager, where the teen featured in the book reported that his mother watched over him like a helicopter. What's important is that this isn't a term just confined to young children. It's a term also used to refer to parents who, for example, are at college or at university and their parents are still overprotective and controlling them from a distance. It's just my experience so far has been as a parent to a 0 to 6-year-old. So why do some parents hover? I think it's really important to point out that not all helicopter parents are equal. The need to hover comes from a variety of places, perhaps some more altruistic than others. I think if, like me, you want to lean away from a natural tendency to helicopter parent, then it is important to recognize and accept why you're doing it before you try to address it. So number 1, is it a desire to protect your children? As I've already explained, this is definitely where I come from. I have a strong desire to protect my children from ever knowing sadness, disappointment, hurt. And so whilst I've come to recognize, and we'll come on to discuss, I'm not sure my style may be the best to achieve in that long term, it's most definitely where it comes from. Number 2, are you feeling a social pressure for your child to succeed? So social media has definitely not helped us in recent years, the constant comparing of your life and that of your children to others. But I think it can make parents think that if your child is not doing well at something, then that's a reflection of them as a parent, as a result, cause them to put pressure on their children. And I'm sure this happened even before social media with people comparing their children. 3, are you trying to give your child something you fear you missed out on? So if you have any sadness surrounding your own childhood, perhaps you want to course correct that for your children, which of course is noble. It's just a question of whether or not that has become an overcorrection. Perhaps, for example, your own parents were unsupportive, and so you want to be as supportive as possible to your child. Or are you trying to accomplish your dream through them? So perhaps you have regrets in your life and you want to fulfill your ambitions through your child. You gave up playing the violin when you're 15 and now make your teenager continue lessons when they say they don't want to so they can play for the symphony orchestra one day, as you wish you'd done in hindsight. In my case, I really wish I'd kept up with gymnastics, so there's a real urge in me to want my child to do gymnastics. But are there any positives of helicopter parenting? Well, yeah, that's right, I said positives, and I do want to start by defending helicopter parenting a little, and not just because I am one. I think it's worth noting that in a lot of cases, helicopter parenting comes from a place of love and desire for your child to be happy, and happier than you were, with the benefit of adult hindsight. Like all things though, I guess it depends on how extreme you take it. So the following is assuming non-extreme levels. So my children get loads of help and support with whatever is going on in their lives. They feel seen and they're known, whether or not it's illness, bullying, understanding death. I work tirelessly to make sure their needs are met. And that's been especially key for my oldest daughter, who has a language condition. Fighting for the right diagnosis and help, liaising between teams and professionals, and communicating with teachers and other parents when she can't, has been super important for her. Helicopter parents tend to be very involved parents. School projects, volunteering for events, general participation, you name it, we are keen. In my daughter's case, I feel confident that has helped her be keen and involved herself at school. A lot of articles on the subject will argue that children of helicopter parents are more likely to succeed because they've been pushed and encouraged. But I think that's probably an argument that could sit on either side of the fence, because whilst it's great to encourage kids to try lots of things, obviously that needs to be balanced with the fact that they are just children, what they enjoy, and if it leads them to be anxious about perfection. So I'm doing this video with my oldest being just 6 years old. As she gets older, I can imagine the feelings of support and feeling seen that I talk about could easily turn to feelings of being suffocated and untrusted if I don't ease off as she gets older. I want her to feel that she can come to me, sure, but not that I never give her space. Long-term studies have shown that your child may not develop the skills to cope with disappointment, rejection, or any other negative aspects of their life because they didn't learn to deal with them when they were younger. And let's face it, often dealing with smaller problems. On a similar note, it can inhibit perseverance and problem-solving skills. There's a reason for the phrase, we learn from our mistakes. If we're never able to make mistakes, we can't possibly learn from them, or indeed develop the mental strength to try again after making a mistake instead of just giving up or asking someone else to do it for us. Inhibiting self-advocacy. So there'll be a time when I, as a parent, cannot physically be there to defend or advocate or step in behalf of my child. So I need them to be able to confidently advocate for themselves, to tell someone that they're uncomfortable, to tell them that they need help. And this kind of links in dependent on parents. So we all know, I think, at least one 30-year-old who still lives at home, doesn't really pay rent, still has their parents do their washing and cooking, maybe even call their doctor when they need an appointment. And lastly, also thinking about the negative impact it can have on us as a parent. Certainly in my case, that level of worry, I think, can make you a worse parent because you're always so anxious, and kids can pick up on that. Plus, it's just not good for our own mental health. So here's what I'm doing to balance out my own natural helicopter parent tendencies that I hope might help people that feel the same. And listen, I can't tell you that I can completely change. I'm constantly doing work on myself, but I'm a worrier at heart. But I do think that being aware of my tendencies, analysing what I want for my daughters and the impact that I can have on them is important. So for sure, the biggest thing I'm doing is not intervening when I see a potential negative consequence for my child's actions, assuming it's not one that's unsafe, obviously. I'm letting them take more risks, which also means that I let them fail. So for example, recently my oldest daughter wanted to sign up to a roller skating class, and I was so worried for her because I knew all of the other children have been in the club a lot longer, so they would be much better than her. But I signed her up, and you know what? She absolutely loves it. She comes home happily, laughing about all the times she fell over that day, how her friends are much better than her, but how they help her, and she has no intention of giving up. So I'll call that a big win in the teaching perseverance column. And I show and talk openly about my own feelings so that she can understand, or they can understand, negative feelings are a part of life that we shouldn't try and squash, but actually feel them, but how we can also deal with those feelings and move on. I would love to hear from you. What sort of parent do you think you are? I mean, none of us are just one type of parent for sure, but how do you think your style sometimes helps and hinders your children? Any advice from those of you with older children or teens on how to navigate all of this as they're growing? And anyone that saw themselves in me and what I talked about being a helicopter parent, please share your thoughts with me as well. Thanks everyone, and speak to you soon.